the layers that are clouding your ability to see and show you ways you can reclaim your life and your communication. It's not what you know, it's what you implement that makes all the difference. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Clarity Corner with Christiana. Wonderful to be here with you today. And happy post-holiday, almost happy New Year. So today is an incredible show. I'm excited because last week I was featured on Bay News 9 talking about cracking your code for better communication. So we want to be able to dive into this today because a lot of people, I've been getting feedback. They were like, wow, that's really interesting, but I really need to understand more. Like I get, okay, maybe my first code, but does that really help me communicate better? So we're going to be diving into that more today. So let me ask you, have you ever told somebody something and then they ask you again and again and again? Well, usually, and I'll have to say straight up honest, my husband has done this to me. I'll ask him the same question. The challenge is he's answering in a different personality type. So I actually can't hear him. So if that's ever happened to you, it simply means you're not speaking the language of the person asking or vice versa. So we're going to be able to show you how to do that today so you can know what they value, what drives their decisions. You can know how to speak and be heard, and not only heard, but understood. So we're going to dive into that today. So make sure if you're not driving, have a pen and paper handy. So what I'm going to be able to do is I'm going to bring some guests on. We're going to talk about it. Now, Freddie was supposed to be here with me today. He apologizes he can't be here. His mom is in the hospital. She's okay, but he is taking care of family first, which I'm happy and just want to make sure that he does what he needs to do, and I'll get him on another show. So let's dive in. First of all, you're probably saying cracking the code to better communication. What does that mean? Well, let's dive in. Back over like 2,000 years ago, so this is not new. This is like very, very old. Hippocrates, who is known as the father of medicine, figured out that you could take the entire human race and you could divide the entire human race into essentially 4 groups, just 4. And what he realized is so much so that he would treat the people in those groups differently medically. Now, I know my doctor's not treating me differently medically based on my personality code, but this is not new. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of, well, maybe not thousands, but as the years have progressed, there's so many different assessment types. So thousands is too many, but there's several assessments. There's DISC is a really popular one, MBTI. There's the color codes is another big one. There's ones with animals, Zodiac. There's pretty much any kind of assessment. So have you ever taken a personality assessment before? Maybe even like Strength Finders or something. That's really big right now. All of those are amazing and great information, but they're focused on one person. Who do you think that is? You, right? So you're taking that assessment. It's all about you. Well, how does that help you connect, communicate with another person? It doesn't really. And most of those assessments take a long time. You have to go through and you have to answer a lot of questions. And it tends to be a time-consuming process. So most people are, one, not going to give you that kind of time, because if you only have a short exchange with somebody, if you're asking them to do these 30, 40 questions, they're not going to do it. So I found a system that's very simple. It's essentially 4 little cards. So if you're looking online, I'm holding up like 4 cards. They're like the size of a credit card. And on each card, there's 12 values. So I'll hold them up. You can't see them, but I'll post them on my webpage. You can tune in at facebook.com/The Clarity Strategist. The Clarity Strategist. And you can check in there. So there's essentially these 4 cards. And each card has a different color, and they have 12 different values on each card. Now, these values, based on how you order these cards. So when on Bay News 9, we showed them being put in order. And I've had a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm that blue one. I'm super blueprint, super organized. That's me. And I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's the first step. What's your primary code? But I want you to think of it. It's like, think of it like a 4-digit PIN code. If you went and you were trying to take money out of the bank and you put in one number, it's not going to work. You have to have the right code in the right order in order to get successfully withdraw money from your account. So think of every person kind of like having a little ATM code. And if you understand their ATM code and how their personality lays down 1, 2, 3, and 4, the order of them, now you can get agreement. Now you can get understanding. Now you actually have connection. So this is what's super exciting. So the first step on Beta Stein is really, they just identified what were the 4 different personalities. And then it was, most people got, okay, my primary. So I want to dive a little deeper because there were a lot of questions. So let's find out what these cards are. So let's go over them really quickly. The first one is this card I'm holding up. If you're looking at it, it's a little blue card and it says blueprint. So if you think of a blueprint, like, okay, we're going to make this super easy, super high level. Blueprint, what's a blueprint? It's like, they're like the drawings of a house, right? They're the structure. If you follow the blueprint, then the house stays standing, right? If you have a blueprint, it gives you the process that you're going to follow. It gives you a predictable outcome. You have to plan it ahead of time. Those types of things. So those are the qualities of stability, structure, systems, planning, those kinds of things. So we use the color blue because think of blue, like the darker part of the ocean is kind of cooler down there. So these people tend to be a bit cooler to approach. So they're going to be people that are more what we like to say inside the box. They're going to be the people that color in the lines, follow the rules, do what's expected. That's generally the high viewpoint of that. So can you think of anybody in your life? Can you think of anyone in your life, Bobby, like you, that may have that as a leading indicator? Do you have someone like that in your life?
That was mine.
That was yours? Yeah, that's you. The structure of the organization. Yeah.
Like, sure sounds like me. So
excellent. So in my life, that was my father. My father was very detailed, structured, everything had to follow a system. He had a system. If you broke his system, it was like there was hell to pay. So next is the action card. So this card is red. And again, there's 12 different values on the card, and I'm going to give you access. If you just stay tuned, I'm going to give you access to be able to go do this online so you can do it, so you can see everything. But this is red. So think red like RPMs in your cards, like when you're going absolute super fast, or red like the red carpet, or maybe like Red Bull because they talk really fast and they're people that are busy, that are always on the moon, that always have 100 things going on. They're like the overachievers, are the people that are like, we always say with this, mover, shaker, millionaire maker, that kind of person. We always say for head to show, it's all for show. So this kind of personality, do you think the approach with this personality is going to be the same as the one that's cooler and inside the box?
Nope.
No. A matter of fact, if I show up, really loud and excited, and oh my God, there's so much going on and you have to get involved. Oh my God, let's just drop what you're doing and let's go right now. The other personality is going to put on the brakes and be like, whoa, wait a second, not appropriate, right? They want everything that's predictable. So what you understand is, can you just see, just from these two, inside the box, following the rules, big outside, loud, kind of the party shows up when they're there. You can see how these two will naturally maybe attract, but also butt heads. Yes? Okay. So this person's out, so the action, and they love freedom, flexibility, action, spontaneity, excitement. You can tell just by how it is, right? They talk really fast. So I'm speeding up my language too, so you can kind of see that that's how it is. Where the blueprint's very calm, they're inside the box, they follow the rules. Next is the nurturing. This is yellow. So think yellow, warm like sunshine, sweet like honey. These people usually greet you with a hug or make you feel included. So these people, they have a really soft tone and they're very sweet and kind and inclusive, and they love authenticity. They love to connect. They really care, pardon me, about like your feelings. They're just absolutely the people that make the world go round. If you ever go to an event, they're the ones volunteering. So we say with this personality type, when it comes to the box, these people like to recycle the box. And more than that, this holiday season, did you see any toy drives or food drives with the box with a wrapping paper on it or anything like that? A nurturing personality, that's how they recycle their box, because they're making a difference. They love community, charity, contribution. So then the next person is the knowledge. Now these people, it's green. So this card's green. Think like the Matrix with all the code coming down. It's all that data. These people love data. They eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They love statistics, figures, facts, Excel spreadsheets. So these people are all about learning and intelligence and logic, and they're very matter of fact. So think of Spock on Star Trek. That's illogical, right? Doesn't make sense. These people always everything has to make sense, be logical. If you're emotional with this person, especially if you're like that action person who's super out there and you're just crazy and you're just doing things based on moving really fast, but you don't have all the research done, that's going to be a big misconnect or disconnect with them. So this code, if you think about the box analogy, they're not inside the box. They're not outside the box. They're certainly not going to recycle the box. So I like to say with these type of people, these people engineer the box. They're the ones that make the box work. They're the reason Tesla works, right? They're the ones that like make everything. They're like your engineers. So if you're thinking of an event, say you're putting on an event, the blueprints are going to have all the structure, the agenda, they're going to have all that. They're going to run the front end. They're going to make sure everything flows smoothly. The nurturing are going to be all your volunteers that help and welcome and greet everybody. And they're going to make sure they're going to be directed by those blueprint people that are driving all the structure. The action people, these ones are on stage, right? These are the guys that are ones that are there to see. They're the show that's being put on mostly. And then the knowledge people are usually the ones that make everything happen. They crunch all the numbers. They're the people that's probably running the AV, the sound, all of that. They're the ones that are like the engineers that make it happen, the light show, all that kind of stuff. So if you think of it that way, every single code is important. And if you can't, like one code can't do it all. It's like we have this beautiful complementing of each other. But when we don't understand how each of these codes speak, we take offense. So if I'm nurturing and someone says to me, give me the facts, I don't care how you feel about it. Just tell me what to do. Like, just give me the information. Have you done the research? Do you know what you're doing? Are you an expert? And I get like offended. I'm like, oh my God, you're not connecting with me. So it's very easy. A lot of times what I've found out is that when I get triggered, and I know, have you ever gotten triggered by somebody?
In a sense, yes.
If you ever get triggered, it's usually just a clash of personality types.
Okay, yeah.
So
Understood.
it's like, you're like, hey, follow the rules, do what's expected. And if you're not following the rules and you're maybe taking risks and you don't agree with that, that may trigger you because
Absolutely.
it's just not your type. It's not your style. But if you can understand that's their style, now you have a little bit more freedom to say, oh, okay, that's them. This is how they need to hear the information. So you can create the system on how to talk to them that way.
Interesting.
Excellent. So I have some people, so let's dive in. So now that you have an idea of the different personalities and kind of how they behave, that's great, but that's just data. So all of my knowledge people are loving all the information, but I like stories. Let's get involved so you can start seeing the people in your life that are like that. And I have some people that are going to be coming on. Are they holding now?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to commercial really quickly. And then when we come back, we'll invite our guests on and we can have a dialogue and start. So that way you can start understanding who people are and how they show up. Okay.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Did you know that almost all skincare products have ingredients in them that actually harm your skin? This extends shelf life. It gets worse. There are 10 ingredients in skincare products that are banned across Europe. I got really upset when I started researching why my skin was getting worse no matter what I did. So I created my own skincare without any of the nasties, and it worked. My skin is glowing fresh and young like never before. So if you want actual results using 100% natural skin, visit formulaflawless.com.
Hey, come here. Are you having a hard time connecting your business? You know, we found a simple, easy way for you to connect, engage, and refer other business professionals and have professionals refer your business. It begins with 3 letters, and those 3 letters are
IRGA.
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 So, what is RGA? It's a really great alternative to in-person networking meetings that's a revenue-generating activity. We invite you to connect your business with the most remarkable professionals in your area. Connect, exchange ideas, and refer at rganetwork.net. No masks required.
IRGA. Are you hoping to grow your business but not sure how?
Has your business flattened out? It may be your messaging. This is Maureen Famiana with MEF Media. I've been in the TV broadcasting business for more than 30 years, and I enjoy helping businesses and entrepreneurs go to the next level. It's about strategy and branding, finding the right story to tell, and then getting media exposure. I'm here to help you grow your business. Find me on Facebook or my website at MEF Media, and let's launch your next chapter today.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome back to Clarity Corner with Christiana. Today, we are diving deeper in cracking the code to better communication. This is all about getting clarity in how you communicate. So just before the break, we went through, and if you're just tuning in, we went through and outlined the 4 different types of personalities. If you missed that, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it and explain it as we go forward, but we're going to meet a couple that is been able to crack their codes and talk about their communication. So would you bring them on the line there, Bobby?
They are up.
Hey, so I'm really excited to introduce to you guys Tony and Catherine Bass. They are a very powerful couple, and they specialize in teaching families how to understand the value of holding sound money. What does that mean? Gold and silver. So please, a warm welcome for Catherine and Tony. Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, Christiana.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So Catherine, first of all, before we get started, so my personality code, I haven't shared that with them yet. Maybe you can tell, but mine is nurturing. So it's not just the first code, but it's all 4 codes in order. So we're going to talk about what that means in a minute. But mine is nurturing first. So very warm like sunshine, greet you with a hug. Action. So that means that if you want to sell me anything, you better build a relationship with me, get to know me before you ask me to make a sale, because I'm not going to act until I have that relationship. And then third for me is blueprint. So under stress, I tend to go and organize everything around me. And then 4th is knowledge. So that's my personality. So Catherine, would you share what your personality type is?
Absolutely. So my first code is action. So I definitely love that stimulation and, like I said, getting to know people. The more people, the better. My second code is nurturing. Like I said, after building that relationship, just loving on the people, loving what they do, and then followed by knowledge and blueprint.
Excellent. Thank you. And Tony, welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Absolutely. So Tony, would you share your code with us?
My code is KBNA. And as a K, I love to learn. I'm the one you can keep pouring knowledge, and I'll keep taking it. The B side of me, the stable side of me, the stability side, the responsibility, it really moves my K side because I like structure, and I like to learn the information and keep it structured and keep everything in order. And after that, relationships are important. I like people who are authentic and are who they say they are. So that's the nurturing side of me. And then the action side comes in, kind of pulls up the rear kind of far, actually, because when everything else is in place, I'll take action.
Excellent. I like to say it's kind of like doorways, right? Like as you walk through, like if they want you to take action, they better have all the information, have a system that they're following that's going to probably be predictable, build a relationship with you, and then maybe they can have that other conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In that order, you got it perfect.
Exactly. Right. So what I love about you two is both of you have gone through and you've cracked your code to communication. So I'm going to give people the opportunity to do that here in just a minute. So what happens is when you crack the code to communication, you actually go online and you look at the 4 values. So the 4 cards with the 12 values each, and you sort them in order, most like you on top to least like you on the bottom, based on your natural behavior. And what that does is that gives you your code, your personality code, like that we all just shared. So Tony, what was illuminating for you, or what was your aha moment when Catherine cracked her code and you guys compared reports? Was there anything that was like, oh my gosh, thank you, now I understand? Or when, now that you had all the information?
There are serious aha moments. One of the biggest ones is we would be in a store and I would look at something and say, oh, I like that. That's pretty cool. And I would keep walking. And she'd say, well, let's get it. And she'd put it in the basket. And I'm like, well, no, I like it. It's pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool. She says, that means you want it. Let's get it. And I would say, no. I like it, but I do not want it. And she says, you just said you wanted it. And I'm like, no. So we had to learn, when I understood that she was an action person, I kind of went back and re-engineered everything and said, okay, here's how I'll say it. Catherine, I like that. It's pretty cool, but I do not want to buy it. What do you think? And that kind of solved everything. So we could move through that pretty quickly. But we had some pretty comical times in the stores.
Okay, first of all, that's amazing. And with Freddie's action, then knowledge, then blueprint, then nurturing last. So with Freddie, I would say, hey, honey, as a nurturing, I like kind of throw it all out there and I like ruminate and think about it, but I do it externally, not internally, like a knowledge would. And so I would say the same thing to Freddie. I'd be like, oh my God, look at that. That's awesome. Or, hey, I want to go and get that. The next day it would be on my doorstep with Amazon.
Exactly.
And so I'd say, hey, do you want to do this? He's like, okay, there's no delay. There's no delay with an action personality. If you say, hey, let's do this, they expect you to go right then. So I had to start saying, I think the biggest one that we always share is that when we would go to a restaurant, I'd say, hey, babe, do you want to go out to eat? He's like, yes. I said, great. I said, do you have anywhere you want to go? He says, no, you pick. And I'm like, okay, what about this? Well, as a nurturer, I'm like, I don't know. Do I feel like the beach or maybe inland? Do I want to like be inside or outside? Maybe live music? And he's like, honey, pick a place or I'm not going to go. He's like, don't do all your deciding inside and then tell me what the final one is. Because it would drive him crazy. By the time I picked a restaurant, he was like not happy.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And it's kind of interesting as we're listening to you, we see ourselves in what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
That's all day, every day. And I'm glad we're aware of it now.
Right. Because now it's not a fight. Right. Exactly. Now you have a language. My husband will be like, honey, that's nurturing. That's why you can't hear me. He's very patient. So, Catherine, how about same question to you? Once you did the code, what was an aha moment that you had about Tony being able to like now say, because you move so quickly, what was so different that you learned about Tony?
It's funny because kind of using that same scenario that he just talked about with, me wanting to buy stuff if he said he liked it, is realizing, where he's coming from now and not getting my feelings hurt. Because whenever he would say, no, I don't want that, it used to hurt my feelings because I thought, well, wait, you just said you liked it. But now realizing that he's just kind of processing it, he might have to go home and do hours of research on something that he said he liked, kind of giving him that time. So that's been a huge thing, which has helped our relationship and helped our communication. I used to think we were great communicators, but not until we cracked our code. It's opened up a whole other level of communication in our marriage.
Agreed.
I love that. So there's something for the listeners, there's something that you may not know. So if you're a blueprint, right, think of the structure and system, and then knowledge, which is all the information, those together tend to be very logic and reason-based. There's no emotion involved in those codes. But the nurturing and the action, or the action and the nurturing, they're very emotional codes. So for you as a couple, I noticed that you have knowledge blueprint and you have action nurturing. So you have all emotional one end and all logic and reason on the other. So how did that shift in your relationship?
Oh my goodness.
Do you want to take that one? Well, it's kind of interesting because when we first learned about this system, we had actually had a fight a couple of nights before. And as we went through cracking our codes, we realized that all 4 of these codes broke down that fight with extreme precision, because as Catherine was getting upset, I was staying logical and methodical, which made her more upset. And then she stopped, and then I took the offensive, and everything that we did played within the codes that we have. And so I've tried to be a little bit more emotional, but it's hard for a knowledge and a blueprint person because my overriding concern is to take care of my family. And so I have to see things logically and methodically to do that, and then take action based on that. So it's hard sometimes to pull out of that, but it's good to know that I'm that way and it works between us.
Right. And again, it just opened up, like, let's say, we're not perfect and we do have our fights, but we're able to kind of break down those fights a lot faster. And I'm able to say, like a quick example, if he says, remember the plan, and kind of getting mad at me that I'm not going with a plan. And I've told him, I said, can you just change one thing and just say, remember the goal, because the goal is something I'm listening for, and the goal is something that I can stand behind. And again, we've gotten through those fights a lot quicker, and which has been pretty amazing. But again, just realizing where he's coming from and where I'm coming from. And like you said, Christiana, we're two opposites as far as our codes go. So just having that awareness has helped us.
Thank you. Now, what I love is that if you're listening to this at home or you're listening on the road, think about who do you know who's like that in your life? Because if you can take what they're sharing or what I'm sharing and say, oh my God, that's like my mother. Oh, that's like my brother. Oh, my kid. All of a sudden, what's going to happen is you're going to hear it differently, and then you're going to start associating with them differently. So this is just a little bit of information I'll share with you how to get more. And then my big thing with the Bay News 9 is I wanted everybody to be able to crack the code with their family, because if you do it, but nobody else does it, you still don't know. You have your ideas, but they're all colored based on your personality, right? I see everything through a nurturing lens because that's what I'm looking for. So even though I think certain things, it may or may not be true. Catherine, you go very quickly as action. Would you say that that's accurate for you?
I think that's an understatement.
He's laughing. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said, I think that's an understatement. You know, Anthony will always tell me, he's like, okay, you need to slow down. And I'm like, no, you need to speed up.
Yes. And what I love is that I can feel the love between you. So how do you guys show love, right? So the knowledge is very specific and the action is very specific. So how would you say that you guys have adapted your love languages to meet?
Well, it's kind of interesting. You ask an interesting question because of something you said about Freddie a few minutes ago. And that is, I asked Catherine last week what she wanted for Christmas. And she mentioned a few things, and some things were good, some things she didn't necessarily want ultimately, but she mentioned a book. Well, without even thinking about it, as soon as I could get away from her, I went and ordered the book, because what she had done is she, in her action mode, answered my question very quickly. Normally, I'd sit and think about it, but because I knew that this book was kind of important to her because I was reading the same book and she had mentioned she wanted to read it, I thought it would be nice to get her own copy. So it actually served two purposes. One was it felt good from my knowledge point of view, and two is it felt good from the action point of view because I took action to do it for her. And I thought that was a lot of fun. That was kind of an interesting twist to what normally would happen.
Catherine, how did you feel about that?
Well, I loved the book, but it's interesting that he brings up Christmas. And again, you know, this is the first Christmas we've had since we learned about, you know, cracking your codes and stuff. And it was interesting to see how we kind of both viewed Christmas. Not Christmas, the holiday, but kind of the gift giving process. And as an action nurturer, I'm about, you know, hey, if you know me, you'll know what I want. You don't have to ask me because you've had that relationship with me. But coming from a knowledge blueprint, he wants, you know, just details. He wants to make me happy, but there's no guessing to it. There's, hey, just give me a list. This is what I'll give you. So it was very interesting seeing it from that aspect this year, and pretty interesting conversation.
I love that. So now you are an action nurturing. So for you, you're very people oriented, but you move very quickly. My husband is action knowledge, and I think they're very equal, but his action is leading, right, honey? I said it, your action's leading, even though he accuses me of putting his knowledge first. But but it was really funny because if with my husband, he moves very quickly, but you better have all the information, or you better know what you're talking about, and you better not. He hates time wasting. If you're inefficient and you're not an expert and you're pretending to be one, as his biggest trigger. So for him, like he's all knowledge. He gets more information. One of the things that fascinates me most about him is that he has so many groups that he's a part of, and he maintains all of those. Like, he can manage all the data from all those groups. And for me, I tune out. Like, that's too much. I don't know how he does it. I'm so fascinated by him because he is just so dynamic in that way. But I couldn't do it.
No, I totally understand that. Go ahead.
And that's very interesting because something that I share with your husband from the K point of view is I absolutely take offense to people wasting my time. The one thing we cannot get back is time, and how I spend my time is very important. So it's very interesting that you said that.
Yeah.
But it's so different, right? So in most programs, they say, oh, I'm an action. Well, but an action shows up differently. My husband's action knowledge. So he's not flashy with how he dresses. He's very pragmatic. That's not something so much. He values really the bottom line, get to the point, be quick. He doesn't waste time in that regard. But all that flashiness that goes along with the action is very tempered by his knowledge. Where, Catherine, do you have a difference in that regard?
Not really, because like my nurturing and knowledge is actually very close.
Mm-hmm.
So I really relate to your husband as far as, I want the bottom line. I want it fast.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, well, no, we made a decision, move forward. We got to go and keep up kind of deal.
So can I give you an example of that just 2 days ago?
Sure. I love it.
We decided to put our home up for sale, and we started Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 days ago, Catherine's taking stuff down in the bathroom, and I said, what are you doing? She says, we're moving. I said, the house is not listed yet. She said, we're selling the house. We're moving, so I'm getting ready to move. And I just start cracking up. Later that night, as she sorted all the stuff out and then put some back, she says, I just want to be ready. That was it. And I just smiled and I went, you got to love the action personality because they will get it done. Absolutely.
100%. Actually, that's funny. My uncle was moving and he was selling his condo. And I said, okay, so here's what you do. And I gave him the process. Well, even though I have been a professional organizer and a clarity strategist for over 2 decades, right? So it's not my first rodeo. I recommended a realtor. Well, the realtor took precedence over me because in the blueprint, he had more credibility because he bought and sold houses. He didn't organize houses, but he bought and sold them. So he said, do something. And my uncle changed all the plans and he had the whole system laid out. He's like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And I said, look, you're at an age where you probably should not do it yourself. You're in your 80s, like hire movers with younger backs and younger knees, right? Like you don't need to, you have enough money, like save yourself. And he ended up doing it all himself because he's like, no, my timeline is this. The realtor gave him a timeline and he followed it. And and I had declined the expertise because I had referred somebody who had a different expertise. So it was really funny that this is the system. You do this. And so, that personality wants to stay on track. They don't want anybody to take them off their path.
Exactly. That's something.
Well, I'm just thinking as far as a relationship goes, one other thing we've learned is, because like I said, I like to move fast. Anthony likes to think it out, think the process through. And one thing I found out in my personality, when he tells me to slow down, that totally shuts me down. And then I go into stress. And realizing that about each other now, he's not going to speed up necessarily like I want him to, and I'm not going to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
But I also, knowing that, it's like, hey, I'll tell him, you need to talk me off the cliff because I'm about to jump. Or he'll tell me, hey, I need your help because I'm kind of stuck in my research mode. So it's pretty been awesome as far as, knowing that about each other and how we can help each other through working through those codes.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay, so we'll dive into that topic when we get back talking about stress codes and how to be able to have that language. So we're going to be heading to break for those of you that are listening. So go ahead and crack your code during the break. Go to crackmycode.com/clarity, CLARITY, crackmycode.com/clarity. You can do it in less than 90 seconds. You can have it done before the commercial's over. We'll see you in just a minute.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Are you hoping to grow your business but not sure how? Has your business flattened out? It may be your messaging. This is Maureen Famiana with MEF Media. I've been in the TV broadcasting business for more than 30 years, and I enjoy helping businesses and entrepreneurs go to the next level. It's about strategy and branding, finding the right story to tell, and then getting media exposure. I'm here to help you grow your business. Find me on Facebook or my website at MEF Media, and let's launch your next chapter today.
Did you know that almost all skincare products have ingredients in them that actually harm your skin? This extends shelf life. It gets worse. There are 10 ingredients in skincare products that are banned across Europe. I got really upset when I started researching why my skin was getting worse no matter what I did. So I created my own skincare without any of the nasties, and it worked. My skin is glowing fresh and young like never before. So if you want actual results using 100% natural skin, visit formulaflawless.com.
Hey, come here. Are you having a hard time connecting your business? You know, we found a simple, easy way for you to connect, engage, and refer other business professionals and have professionals refer your business. It begins with 3 letters, and those 3 letters are
IRGA.
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 So, what is RGA? It's a really great alternative to in-person networking meetings that's a revenue-generating activity. We invite you to connect your business with the most remarkable professionals in your area. Connect, exchange ideas, and refer at rganetwork.net. No masks required.
IGA.
Don't turn it off now. You need this stuff. Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Clarity Corner with Christiana. I have Catherine and Tony Bass on the line with me as my guests today, and we are talking about cracking the communication code. And they have been able to crack their code, get their profile report, and start understanding how to have communication where something in the past may have caused a fight, and now they can see what's happening. So when you have your person, so welcome back, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being here. So before we went to break, Catherine, you mentioned something really interesting, that when you get stressed, you shift. So for those of you that are listening, I'm not sure if you're able to crack your code yet, but once you crack your code, go to crackmycode.com/clarity. Again, crackmycode.com/clarity. You'll get your free personality report. Do that with a friend or family member or a colleague, and then compare reports. What you'll notice is the first is your dominant personality type. So it's like your leading indicator, whether you're action, knowledge, blueprint, or nurturing. And then the second code alters how the first code shows up. So what it does is it colors it, no pun intended, or maybe it is, I'll let you decide. But that colors how that personality shows up. It influences it. Then the third code in your first, second, third, and fourth is how you show up under stress. So while you may be an action, get to the point really quick, move really quickly, under stress, you turn into a different person. So Catherine.
Definitely.
Yes. Would you share how that is for you? And then how has Tony adapted to help you when you're in stress?
Well, it's kind of funny because when we move into stress, we both kind of take each other's personalities on as our own.
Nice.
Because then when I go into stress, I definitely slow down and I want the information. I'm more of the knowledge blueprint. Anthony turns into the nurture action. So again, we just flop. But what I love about what we've discovered when we cracked our code is, even though it's telling me about the other person, it tells me a story about myself. And it tells me kind of, well, what do I need? As far as, like you just said, if I go into stress, I know that I'm moving into the knowledge, but that's where I can pull Anthony in and ask for his help instead of me just, going 100 miles a minute. It's like, okay, Anthony, I need your help with this process, kind of slow me down. I don't think that.
Well, and I'll add to that, because the big learning curve for myself happened when I realized that I go hard into action when I'm in stress. So I didn't understand why she slowed down. And then once we fully understood what the cracking of our codes did, which we think it's great that you're offering people, the listeners, the ability to do this right now. What we started to understand after we cracked our code is we did make a hard swap, and I get very aggressive, and I just want it to be resolved, if you will. Or, from kind of a negative standpoint, it's like, well, hey, the fight's already started. Why are you not fighting back? Why are you quiet now? The fight's already started. And not even realizing that I'm going into action when normally I'd sit back and methodically think through things, try to stay out of a fight. Well, now I'm the aggressor. And so once we cracked our codes and understood that, we've been able to work on that to where our fights last sometimes just a few seconds to a few minutes, but rarely more than an hour. And that all by itself, from cracking our codes, is worth its weight in gold. No pun intended.
Yes, because it puts a language around it, right? With Freddie and I, actually, I was teaching a group. I was working with people that work with at-risk youth and the manager, and then all the people that work with the kids. And she was a blueprint knowledge. And all of her staff, the majority were nurturers. Well, under stress, they were all blueprints. So when she was happy, everything was running properly, she was stressing her staff out, right? So when she felt great, everybody else was completely under stress. So do you find that before cracking your code, when she would get stressed out and she would be in knowledge, did you feel like your communication was better? When you stayed in your code and then she was stressed out, were you like, oh yeah, there she is?
Well, actually, it's kind of interesting because on the surface, I think I did, but really underneath it was more, let's get this over with. It's all started. Let's get whatever it is over with, because I don't want to carry stress anywhere, any longer than I have to. So in some ways, yes. And in some ways, no. It's kind of a 50-50 thing.
Excellent. How about you, Catherine?
I don't think, we realized before cracking our code what was happening. Like I said, if we were having a disagreement, that we were swapping roles kind of per se. So, again, I slowed down. He went into action. And so he's wanting to know, well, come on, you're all about the let's go. Let's talk about this. And I'm the one that's slowing down. And, like I said, I think before we cracked our code, we were just kind of like in this, unending circle.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't understand what's happening. So now being able to, kind of step back from it and say, okay, this is where we're going. How do we get out of there? And kind of how you were talking about the doors have to be in line. It's like, okay, shut that door. We're not going through that door right now.
Yes.
Let's cut it off early.
And if you don't mind, I can tell you what one of the huge improvements in our relationship. As Catherine was talking, I was looking at her thinking, probably the worst part of any of that, Christiana, was she would kind of slow down and then tears would start to flow. And now, instead of me wanting to keep moving and keep the fight going, I realized she stops right there and starts to analyze everything. I'm being the aggressor. It's not doing anybody any good. It's actually working in the negative big time. So now it's time for me to shift back to primary and let's settle down for a minute and we can figure this out. And that's what you'll find. And that's what your listeners will find if they decide to pursue beyond cracking their codes, they'll find that it turns them into a totally different person, and that they can hear and see the other person, not from their own eyes, but from the perspective of how that person wants to be seen.
Right. And one thing, your listeners don't know about us, Anthony and I are together 24 hours a day. I mean, we run a full-time business together. He's my best friend. So we'll actually have people, if by chance we happen to be in separate places, we've actually had people call, hey, is everything okay? Because we do spend so much time together. So,
wow.
Being able to be, as far as our communication skills getting that much better has just definitely improved our marriage in so many ways.
Absolutely.
And what I heard in there too is that you moved from adversary to teammate.
Absolutely.
That was the big shift.
Yeah. Yes.
And
it doesn't mean everything becomes perfect. It means everything becomes solvable and we work everything out and we get right back to our friendship and our marriage right away.
I love that. And there's so much possibility in that because, okay, I'll be straight up honest. And Freddie, I like to be transparent because here's the thing. Just because I teach this and I share this, one of the things, and you can tell me whether you guys do this too, I still default back into my primary code.
Absolutely.
Right. It's almost like going to the gym. You have to train yourself out of it. You have to train the other different personality types where that way you can use them kind of like a ninja. You can go in and out of each one. But if you stop training, you immediately default back to your normal personality type. Have you had that experience?
So I'll give you a quick,
They're laughing.
very, very recent example. So in our office, like I said, we both have our desk, and Anthony will say something, ask me to do a task. And I just go right into the task as far as my action. And, hey, I completed it. I'm good. And in the meantime, he's sitting at his desk saying, no response noted. And, he's waiting for that response. And I'm thinking, well, why do you need a response? I already fixed it. So now I'm working on, if he asks me to do something, I'll turn to him and say, okay, I got this. But it's so funny that you say that, because I immediately, you get comfortable. That's what our normal code is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not thinking about that he's in knowledge. He needs to, finish connecting the dots. Did you hear me? I'm like, did I hear you? I heard you and I took care of it. What more do you need? But so definitely agree with that. It's so easy to go back into your just normal mode of operation.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, so what Freddie shared with me this morning, because we still thought he was going to be on the show. And he's like, well, Christiana, a great example is when you ask how my day is. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, you don't really listen. And I'm like, what? I said, no, I do. And he goes, no, you end up walking away mid. And I'm like, oh yeah, if there's too much information, I'm out of there. Right. Because for me, information literally makes my eyes roll back in my head. And unless I know it's like really important, where I need to be paying attention, or it's my career where I love it. I'm an information junkie when I'm working because I'm helping people sort stuff out. But if I don't know the importance of it or where it's going to go, like I literally can't stay conscious with it. I'm just like, oh, and I have to leave. And I didn't realize I was doing that. So I have to say, all right, give me the action answer of how your day was. And then let's pick it apart and I'll say how much I can handle.
That is so awesome.
But I had no idea I was doing that. And he's so knowledgeable, right? He can say, he tracks all that. He remembers conversations like from years ago. I don't remember. And early on in our relationship, he would tell me all this information about himself and I wouldn't remember. And he'd be like, honey, I told you this. And I'm like, he goes, you must not care. And I'm like, no, that's not the case. I didn't know it was important. If it's important, I'll remember. So as a nurturing style personality type, if I know it's important, it goes in my memory bank. But if I don't know it's important, it's like water off a duck's back. It goes right in and right out. Like I just don't hold on to it. How do you guys behave in that situation?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sitting here laughing because that is so true. Anthony would go into his stories. I'm like, oh my gosh, are we done yet? You can say.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we had a client that called and asked us something, and I had to do some calculations, and it was percentage change.
Mm-hmm.
And I was proud of going back and remembering percentage change from millions of years ago. So I didn't just give Catherine the answer to give the client. I said, let me show you how I did it. And she said, just give me the answer. I said, no, let me show you how I did it. It's important. And I'm proud of myself. And she's like, can I just get the answer?
And that is something that if you don't have this information, that simple thing where you're excited to share and she just wants the answer can lead to a big blowout fight in relationships. Right. And it's such a simple thing.
Right.
Yeah. And in the past, it would have become a fight. And now it's like, that's so awesome. I love the way that you figured that out.
Yes.
And just kind of, acknowledging that he did the hard work behind the problem to solve the problem. But
it's funny. You tend to laugh about stuff that you used to fight about. And that's one of the beauties of cracking our codes, because now we see how they say these small fights that you have, you won't even remember what they were about a day or two later. Well, this kind of erases a lot of that because it becomes a laughing point, not a fighting point.
Mm-hmm.
So that part's been very cool. Very, very cool.
I love that. The other thing too that I've noticed is that what it does is it gives you a language like, oh, wait a second, you're not understanding me. Okay, wait, it's not personal, your action. So bottom line, here's the thing. Now can I give you, so I had Sarah Freeman on a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about with her friend, their definition of brief was different. Her definition of brief was 10 minutes, and her friend's definition of brief was 5 minutes because she was a blueprint. And Freddie texted and he said, mine is 1 minute.
Yeah.
Right. So what's cool is so now I can bring this into my relationship with Frenny, because I can say, okay, honey, all right, so I got 2 minutes. What do you got? Or at least I can like say, give me I got 5 minutes. Okay, give me what you got and tell me what's important so I know what I need to remember. Right. But I have that languaging now. So that could be something like, is that something that would serve you guys?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's kind of funny because I like to listen to podcasts and stuff like that. And I would want Catherine to listen to it because if the information was important to me, of course it was important to her in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that she wanted the Cliff Notes version of it after I listened to it. And the funny swap that's occurred is now I will play something and she'll say, hey, bring that here. I want to listen. And I'm like, well, no, you don't have to. I'll let you know what it's about. She's like, no, I want to listen. So you have that, I guess, that dance back and forth, right? Because you understand the other person's language.
Right.
Absolutely. So guys, I just want to say thank you so much for having you on. Is there anything for the listeners that you want to say? Just a quick 30-second just summary of what you want to just leave people with as, we say goodbye.
Actually, I would just say, strongly recommend, use Christiana's link and crack your code. It's going to be empowering. To get this information, it's going to change every relationship you're involved with.
It will absolutely make you better in all relationships, not just work or personal, but all relationships.
Yes. And Christiana, before we go, we definitely want to send our best to Freddie's mom. Just let her know that, hey, we'll be praying for her.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so grateful. I really appreciate that. And you guys, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I took so many huge, valuable nuggets from your shares that I can apply in my relationship. I hope other people at home did as well. And I'll look forward to connecting with you guys later. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us today.
Awesome.
Thank you. Take care. Have a blessed day.
Okay, great.
Bye.
Thank you. Guys, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure today. I hope you've had a great time on the show. So remember, each personality code expresses differently and has a different language and a different way of listening and a different values that drive their decision making. So what you want to do is it allows you to communicate in a way that totally respects another person. And you heard that back and forth between Tony and Catherine, where now they have a language where they can actually appreciate the value of the other person and use them when they're in stress, right? I love that Catherine, when she was stressing out, said, oh my God, can you help me out here? Here's a knowledge thing that I need support with. And I know I do that with Freddie as well. So, guys, make sure go and crack your code. It's crackmycode.com/clarity. Again, it's crackmycode.com/clarity. I want to give a big shout out to Spectrum Bay News 9. Thank you so much for featuring me on there last week. I'm so incredibly grateful. That was wonderful. Huge shout out to MEF Media and Maureen Famiano for making that opportunity happen. And again, thank you so much for tuning in and coming along with my journey. Catherine and Tony Bass, you guys gave so many wonderful nuggets. I'm so incredibly grateful for you. So be sure to check out Clarity Corner with Christiana every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Please share, let people know, let people tune in. If you got value, please share it with somebody else. We're going to continue to uncover what's clouding your vision, holding you back from communicating and thinking clearly. We'll get rid of the clutter that's blocking your success. Until next week, have a happy new year, and we'll see you next week.
WTAN Clearwater
FM 106.1,
WDCF Dade City
FM 102.3,
WZHR Zephyr Hills
FM 104.3.
Listen.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Dell Small Business.
I'm Wendy Gillette in New York. Breaking this hour, a verdict in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. She was accused of recruiting teenage girls for Jeffrey Epstein to abuse. CBS's Steve Futterman reports.
The jury found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of 5 of 6 counts, including trafficking and transporting a minor for sexual activity. Loyola Law School